have to like, she told me she smokes, and I'm like, are you gonna smoke in the room or outside? Was not what I was expecting, and I'm not comfortable here. Get comfortable while I sip some tea and share my experience with college roommates, college doormen, and all the good stuff. So if you're new here, my name is Ann, and I make college and lifestyle videos. So, and in this video, I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I wish I knew before dormant in college and meeting college roommates and all the good, the bad, the ugly about rooming and roommates and all that good stuff. So I wrote out a couple points that I don't want to miss, and then I'm going to share with you my experience. So let's get into the video. So one of the first things that I learned and I wish I knew is that people are not raised the same way as you are, so they won't have the same values. So for instance, in growing up, I always lived with my mom, and then when I moved here, I lived with my dad, and they are both very keen on cleanliness and cleaning and putting stuff where they're supposed to be. So it was like those values are ingrained in me now, so that's how I operate now, even though I'm not like perfect as they are, but like seeing people scattered out, seeing things scattered around or dirtiness or uncleanness like irks me and it makes me uncomfortable. But moving into college, I should have known that not everybody is like that. Not everybody was raised like that. Some people's homes, their parents don't care about cleanliness and all that kind of stuff, or even if they do, they didn't really pick that up from their parents, so they will have a different level of cleanliness to them, if I may say so myself. So something you should keep in mind is that you are not going to meet people with the same values. It's rare. Sometimes you are, but it's like 1 out of 10%. It's very rare. So just know that you're not going to meet people with the same values, and that's going to bring a clash sometimes unless you communicate or learn how to move around it. And that brings me to my second point, which is there's always going to be some sort of conflict, even if it's not something major or something big or destructive. There's always going to be something destructive, something that this person is going to agree with, this person doesn't agree with, so it's going to be a clash. It kind of follows from the values, because let me bring like a tiny minor thing. So one thing that I'm very particular about is after showering, you rinse all the foam or the bubbles that comes out when you're showering. But some people are not like that. They're gonna leave it behind. So that could potentially like bring a conflict when I'm like, this thing is disturbing and I don't like that. I don't know if you get me, but it was just an example. But there's always gonna be some sort of conflict between you two, or if it's a suite with a lot of people, there's always going to be something that one person agrees with and maybe two other people don't, or two people agree with and that one person doesn't agree. And it's normal, but it's part of the rooming and the dorming experience. And the next step, the next thing that I wish I knew after the conflict thing is knowing how to communicate, just like in any relationship, in friendship, in amorous relationships, in parent-child relationship. There should be a good communication skill, but most of the time, the people that we meet, find it hard to communicate about things that they like or things that they don't like, because they feel like they're gonna hurt the other person or stuff like that. That's me to a T, because I'm always scared, because I'm kind of a people pleaser. I'm steering away from that. But most of the time it's so hard for me to say, hey, this is what you're doing and I don't like it, and if you could like change it this way or compromise this way, then that would help me, or the other person, like vice versa. But it's so hard to communicate with a stranger you know nothing about. It's like, that's why I'm like, college dorming is such a strange like phenomenon, because it's so hard to gel with people like they know absolutely nothing about you, have very different values from, but it's like the situation you can't really change, you can't really stay away from it. It's something that you have to encounter if you're a dorm, unless you're able to get a single room, which I would advise if you're able to, but if not, then you have to deal with it. So you have to learn how to communicate and like not be afraid of saying things that hurt you or things that makes you uncomfortable, so that they will like compromise or stop or something like that. And the next thing that I also learned through my college dorming, so right now I'm a junior, so I've dormed for 3 years, and in the 3 years I've had 6 semesters, so it's not been the same person over and over again. So I've dormed with like a couple of people, and some of the things that I'm saying right now are not only my experience but some of my friends' experience as well. But something that I learned that people, this is normal in human nature, but there's a level or a stand to it that you know this is cruelty or this is not that good, but there's an extent to human nature that people will try to take advantage of you, whether it's in, let's say you decide to share simple things like toilet paper. One person will decide not to buy anything, and then the other person will be like responsible for buying toilet paper over and over again. But that's not fair, because the other person is like, they're buying it with money, they're not getting it for free. So why does only one person have to incur the expenses of something that we are both sharing? So this also ties in with the communication. If you don't communicate about stuff like that and be like, hey, sometimes it's so hard because like you're calling them out or stuff like that, but if you don't do it, it's gonna keep going on. Sometimes, I'm gonna say this with like a pinch of salt, sometimes people are like oblivious or they don't see that they're taking advantage of you. Apart from like buying stuff, there's also the phenomenon of maybe I'm more clean than the other person is, and let's say we decide to make a timetable or a schedule for cleaning the bathroom. The other person that's not clean can like decide to not follow the schedule, and then the person who's clean has to incur the like results or the effects of that, and which is not fair. So something you should know that, and you should be like vigilant for, is that people will try to take advantage of you, whether they are older than you or they're younger than you. People don't care. It's like, it's so hard for these people to just be normal human beings and be like considerate of other people's feelings and expenses and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be vigilant and realize that people are gonna try to take advantage of you. So you have to like not fight, but like put your guard up and communicate and call them out if you need to. And the next thing that I also learned is that you have to learn how to compromise. So on the same subject of cleanliness, you're not gonna get the same person's cleanness as your level, and that's fine. Some people just aren't clean, and you can't like force them to be clean like in a span of like 3 months that you live with them. So you have to compromise with like speaking to them, and then maybe keep your dirtiness to your side. Don't let it cross my side, because that makes me uncomfortable. And that's a compromise of like learning that, okay, they are okay with not being that clean, and that's their side, but me, I want to be clean. So like their compromise is like they should keep it to themselves. And another example, this is particular of a friend's experience. She doesn't like the cold, but when we come in during the summer, fall time until like the end of October or November, they keep the AC on in some of these buildings, and some of these people like the cold. And my experience as well, I've roomed with people that really likes the cold, and I just don't like the cold. I don't like being cold at all. I like it being warm. There's always sometimes been a conflict of one person raising up the temperature with the thermostat, and then the other person will come and then lower it, and it's like, a bicker between the two roommates, and it's funny, but it's also kind of serious because why? But you should be able to reach a compromise of like keeping it at a certain temperature so that each person can be somewhat comfortable, because you don't have to expect, and this like applies to everybody, you don't have to expect people to like be okay with your preference. Like the way I don't like the cold and like to keep the heat up, I don't have to force my roommate, if she doesn't like the heat, to keep the heat on. I can like reach a compromise of like cold but like livable, not like extremely cold where even when I have my blanket on I'm like shivering and I can't sleep. So there's always got to be a compromise in different shapes or form. But yeah, that's something you should know. One thing that I've heard, I've not experienced this myself, but I think it's a reasonable thing, is like not to dorm with friends, because it's so easy to get into conflict, as I said earlier, with roommates, because you are sharing a common living space, and living spaces are like personal and intimate, and people like their safe space. So if other person is trying, it's making them uncomfortable, even if it's their friend or whatever, it can bring conflict. So I've heard it's best not to room with your friends, because it can break your friendship. I'm not sure about this, but that's one thing that I've heard, and I've added it in here. I've not roomed with a friend I've not roomed with a friend, someone I actually know before ever during my whole college career. So I think that's good, but maybe it could have it perks, like someone that understands you or understand how you move or operate. But it's like, is it gonna work, or I don't know. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well. And one of the things that this is very important for like freshmen or anybody, honestly. When I was placed, this is a story from my freshman year. When I was placed and put in a dorm, and then when they added my roommate, I would like always, when they add your roommate, you can see their email. I'd always email them, ask them like a couple of questions, and that is very important. Always try to reach out to them before moving there if you are able to, so you can know if you can gel together and like interests and preferences. Even though these schools and these buildings put in like no smoking in the room, most of these people actually smoke. So if you don't reach out to them and ask them if they're gonna smoke in the room or not, if you're someone like me who isn't okay with smoke or hate the smell of, then you gotta reach out to them and make sure they're not gonna do that, because it's jarring if you have to live with someone that smokes and you're not comfortable with. So it's like, reach out to them to make sure. And apart from that, so my first roommate that was assigned to me, I emailed her. And she was like, oh, I smoke. Yeah, I think she told me she smokes. And I'm like, are you going to smoke in the room or outside? Because if you're going to smoke outside, that's none of my business. But if you're smoking inside the room, then that's a problem. And she said, oh, she's going to smoke in the room. I like, pack my bags and get me out of here. So I called housing, and then they changed my room. And the next person that I got also said she's going to bring her pet dog. And unfortunately, I'm kind of afraid of dogs. I don't like them, like jumping on me or being, and imagine sleeping 24/7 for like 4 months with someone. And most of these people, when they put their roommates, it's for a span of the whole year. So you have 2 semesters with them, and that's like 8 months, and that would scare me. So I was like, no. Sorry, but I gotta go. And then I asked for another change, like ask as much as you can so you can get the most comfortable place that you can get. some options, some circumstances you can't change, but even after the semester begin, try to call and see if there can be a change. Because for instance, when we were moving this year, because of the ICC situation, there was no rooms left apparently, but later down the year, if you ask, they will like change you. So and this ties into my next point, if you are not comfortable, let's say you've reached out, you've agreed on certain things, you see you're comfortable and all that stuff, you move in and it's a whole different story. It's like this was not what I was expecting and I'm not comfortable here. Always, if you are able to, call housing and ask them for a change of room. So the only thing is like it's a risk. Maybe you can be moved to somewhere that's way worse, but still it doesn't hurt to change, and you might end up, and the sad and funny thing is some of the rooms are empty and they don't have any person living in it, and let's say you're stuck living with someone that is making you uncomfortable. Well, there's an empty room. Make that make sense, but always try to call and change up your room if you are able to. And I should have said this. Wait, no. Another thing is also when you email or call them, or like your roommate when you're assigned to them, always make sure your schedules align. Let's say you have a 9 a.m. and they always have a like later in the day 12 p.m. or let's say you have at 12 p.m. they have at 8 a.m. and you're sensitive sleep. Like for instance, I'm a very sensitive sleeper. Like the smallest of noise, I'll be awake. Unless I'm like really tired, but most of the time the littlest sound, I'm awake. So if they're gonna wake up around like 6, 7 a.m. and that's gonna bother you because you won't be able to sleep again and it's like you're wasting time to your class. That sucks. So it's best to ask if your schedule and take a look at your schedules and see how they align with each other and see if it's gonna help you or not. Unless you don't have trouble like sleeping, even people are making noise or something. And yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, learned a thing or two about like dorming and making decisions about roommates and stuff. But hopefully you are able to become a good roommate to someone. Please don't make someone's life hell, and I'll see you in my next video.